Hi everyone, this is Sam with the Wine News in 5. Before I get to global news, a bit of site news. On Monday, July 14th, we began publishing entries to our wine writing competition. This year's theme, an ode to a grape variety, has proven incredibly popular, garnering 309 submissions, the largest number in the competition's history. The judges have their work cut out for them with choosing only the best entries to publish. All of these are free to read on our site, and once we've announced our shortlist early in September, we'll be asking you to help us choose the winners. In terms of global news, today I'll discuss the World Health Organization's push to raise prices on alcohol, the lifting of inter-provincial alcohol trade barriers in Canada, Ireland delaying requirements for cancer warnings on alcohol, increased government aid for wine in Australia, regulatory changes approved by the International Organization of Vine and Wine, the OIV, 9 new Master Sommeliers, and finally, because it made me laugh, an Australian man who made national news for riding a wine bag like a surfboard. First up, the World Health Organization's push to raise prices on alcohol. On Wednesday, July 2nd, the World Health Organization released the news that they were launching an initiative to encourage countries to raise the price of alcohol, tobacco, and sugary drinks by 50% by 2035 through health taxes. They are calling this initiative 3 by 35. The WHO cites rising rates of non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and dementia, shrinking development aid, and growing public debt as the reasons for this initiative. They also state, many countries have expressed interest in transitioning towards more self-reliant, domestically funded health systems and are turning to the WHO for guidance. They have a stated goal of raising $1 trillion over the next 10 years. While the WHO's global healthcare goals are laudable, especially in the current political and economic climate, I cannot get behind their blanket anti-alcohol stance. And if the WHO's call for greatly increased taxation on beverage alcohol is successful, it will be very bad news for an already beleaguered wine industry. On to the lifting of inter-provincial alcohol trade barriers in Canada. On Tuesday, July 15th, it was announced that 9 of Canada's provinces and 1 territory had signed an agreement allowing direct-to-consumer alcohol sales between provinces by May 2026. This means that Canadian consumers will be able to order alcohol from producers or retailers anywhere in the country. According to Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Minister of Transport and Internal Trade, the agreement aims to create a more united Canadian economy. From the wine side, it will also give Canadian consumers more choices in what they can buy. On to Ireland delaying requirements for cancer warnings on alcohol. As I have previously mentioned on this newscast, in 2024, Ireland implemented a requirement that by May 2026, all alcohol has a label stating there is a direct link between alcohol and fatal cancers. They were on track to be the first country to implement this requirement. According to a July 15th Politico article, this requirement will be delayed by at least 3 years for fear that U.S. tariffs will prove detrimental to the country's beverage exports. Enterprise Minister Peter Burke has said that he believes that the Republic should wait for an EU-wide requirement on cancer warnings, telling Parliament, acting unilaterally on a sector that is vulnerable through tariffs is not a good idea. Next, increased government aid for wine in Australia. On Thursday, July 10th, Australia's government pledged an additional 1.1 million Australian dollars to the $3.5 million grape and wine sector long-term viability support package. This money will be used to expand international markets, encourage diversification activities, and conduct research. You can read more about it in Jancis's article published today called Keeping Faith in Australian Wine. On to regulatory changes approved by the International Organization of Vine and Wine. On June 20th, the OIV, an intergovernmental organization consisting of 50 member states, adopted 14 new resolutions. Most of them are interesting only to winemakers, from best practices on how to count yeast cells in wine to best practices for determining the total acidity of grape must. But there is one geeky resolution that I could not resist telling you about. Fumaric acid, which is a naturally occurring organic acid that occurs in plants, but also that humans produce when exposed to sunlight, was added to a list of compounds used for acidifying wines last year. This year, it was added to a list of compounds used for microbiological control. Apparently, it's proven useful for inhibiting malolactic fermentation, which is thereby preserving malic acid and making wines taste fresher, while reducing the need for SO2. I love it when this industry finds gentler alternatives to products already in use. Next, 9 new Master Sommeliers. On June 22nd, the European branch of the Court of Master Sommeliers announced 9 new Master Sommeliers from 8 different countries. This is a record pass level and brings the total number of Master Sommeliers worldwide to 291. Congratulations and thank you to Wine News listener Tony Lecoureux, who shared this news, as well as to his fellow new MSs, Andreas Rosendahl, the first Swedish MS, Sotiris Neofitidis, the first Cypriot MS, Agnieszka Szywiecka, the first female MS from Poland, Roberto Duran, the first Spanish MS, Jan van Heesvelde, Fabian Min, Jonathan Govea, and Stephen Towler. This is an incredible accomplishment. And in the same vein, yesterday, July 17th, the American branch of the CMS announced the completion of the largest advanced sommelier examination in the organization's history. 55 out of 87 candidates passed. Congratulations to everyone. Finally, an Australian man who made national news for surfing using a wine bag. On July 5th, ABC News published a story on a man named James McAnulty who uses a partially inflated bag from Bag & Box Wine to surf. McAnulty has surfed on travel pillows, blow-up mats, and kickboards, but he told ABC of the wine bag, "This is the pinnacle." That's all for this episode of the Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancesrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email me at news@jancesrobinson.com. Thanks.